I thought that sacrificing my face and leg to save her would win me true love. But I never expected that my wife, Sophia, would hate me so deeply. She resented my act of saving her, because this kindness prevented her from marrying her first love. In the end, she even watched me die with cold eyes. If I could do it all over again, I would never be so accommodating, nor would I let myself get hurt. But why is she now crying and kneeling, begging me to marry her? Boiled fish again. Can't you make something different? I watched as the chopsticks were thrown hard on the table, the tissues beside flying up. Sophia, my wife, said impatiently. I looked at Sophia and said, "What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? You said you wanted some seafood yesterday, so I made this dish. Is this what you call seafood? James, I've really had enough. How much longer do we have to live like this?" Looking at the suddenly furious Sophia, I felt a bit awkward for a moment, not knowing what expression to put on. We've been married for 8 years. Recently, Sophia has been coming home from work looking really bad. I thought it was due to work pressure, so I tried my best to avoid touching her sore spots. But I never thought that a simple dish of boiled fish would set her off today. This used to be her favorite dish. Seeing that Sophia clearly didn't want to talk to me, I silently cleaned up the dining table. What a pity. Not a single bite of the food has been eaten. Looking at the tissue thrown into the fish soup, I felt as if a stone had hit my chest, heavy, oppressive, and painful. My phone kept vibrating in my pocket. I wiped my hands and took it out to check. It was a message from my old classmate, Mark. "Hey, James, guess who I met at the company today?" He was one of my few good friends. Before I could reply, he sent another message, "David." That's right, it's David. Along with several short videos. The place in the videos looked very familiar. Sophia worked there. In the picture, David, dressed in a suit and accompanied by 3 or 4 people, exuded a leadership aura. After not seeing him for 10 years, he was even more dazzling. I also saw him suddenly stop in front of Sophia. In an instant, I understood Sophia's strange behavior today. I stared intently at the video. David just reached out to shake Sophia's hand and said, "Long time no see, old classmate," and then he left. But Sophia's expression changed from obvious daze to embarrassment, and finally to a hint of surprise. I also saw her slightly curled palm, as if holding something. My heart sank to the bottom. If it weren't for that incident, everyone would have thought that David and Sophia would be together. I was carelessly washing the dishes. When I turned around, I slipped under my feet. Subconsciously, I reached out to grab the shelf next to me, but it was a step too late. My head hit the ground directly on my back. In my horrified eyes, from the toppled shelf, a fruit knife directly stabbed into my chest with a poof sound. Cough, Sophia. I suddenly choked on a mouthful of blood and called my wife's name vaguely. The commotion attracted Sophia. Her face turned pale, and she took out her phone to make a call. However, she suddenly stopped. The intense pain in my chest and the increasingly labored breathing made my brain start to feel dizzy. "James, if it weren't for you in the beginning, it should be me and him together, right?" Sophia's words made me understand that she didn't want to save me. Feeling the loss of blood, I laughed at myself. Back then, it was me who saved her, and I became disfigured and lame because of it. The main story begins. If you like it, remember to subscribe. You finally woke up. You've been sleeping the whole way. I thought you were going to sleep to death. I opened my eyes groggily and suddenly saw Mark's face, which looked several years younger. I asked in confusion, "What's going on? Was I saved?" After saying that, I subconsciously covered my chest. There was no wound. I sat up straight suddenly and found that I was in a car. We're almost at the mountain villa. I can't wait for the barbecue tonight. Mark's voice was full of excitement. I suddenly realized something was wrong and immediately reached for my phone. The date is 10 years ago. My heart was pounding like a drum, and my brain was working at high speed. Did I get reborn 10 years ago? Or was everything that happened before just a dream I had in the car? Does anyone need to go to the service area to relieve themselves? If not, we'll keep going non-stop. This sentence made me turn my head suddenly. It was the same words. This wasn't a dream. I touched my smooth left face with my trembling hand. There were no uneven scars, and my nose was still there. I moved my left leg, and there was no dull pain. This feeling of being intact felt a bit unreal. I want to get off at the service area. Mark, come with me. The bus could stop briefly for 10 minutes when passing through the service area, but if no one asked, it wouldn't stop. So, now wasn't the time to think too much. Getting off the bus was the first thing to do. In my previous life, when the bus was almost at the mountain villa, a tragic rear-end collision occurred. and I sacrificed the left side of my body to save Sophia, becoming an ugly, burned, and lame person. I subconsciously scanned the area and saw Sophia's face looking back at me in the front left. Young as she was indeed very beautiful. Unfortunately, no matter how much I gave for her, the ending was just me waiting to die while she watched indifferently, her heart as cold as ice. I withdrew my gaze. This time, I wouldn't be so reckless as to sacrifice myself. Since she regretted my appearance, I didn't need to fawn over her either. Hey, when did I say I wanted to get off? I'm in a hurry. You're so talkative today. After saying that, I directly and forcefully dragged Mark off the bus. This was also to save his right hand. Actually, I think it's quite hot today. It might be nice to rest at the service area for a while before going. There's no rush. Looking at the more than 30 people in the car, I couldn't help but speak up. That rear-end collision was a tragic event with heavy casualties. James, are you being too fussy? A grown-up man, what's there to be afraid of the heat? There's air conditioning in the car. What are you worried about? The bus won't wait for anyone. If you miss it, find your own way there. David's voice sounded lazily. The others in the car burst into laughter, and the looks they gave me were full of mockery. These people just liked to curry favor with David. Even the driver said that a young guy like me being so afraid of the heat might have some health problems. I clenched my fists, then relaxed my facial muscles. Master, it's hot today. Everyone's feeling impatient. Please drive slowly. I gave the driver one last piece of advice, but the driver's face showed displeasure. The driver replied impatiently, I've been driving for so many years without any problems. If you want to get off, do it quickly. Fine, then do as you like. It's you who gave up this chance. As soon as Mark and I got off, the bus door closed immediately. The people in the car shouted at the driver to drive off and not wait for us. And the driver really stepped on the gas and drove away. Mark was so angry that he spat a few times at the rear of the bus and said to me anxiously, Oh, my brother, what are you thinking? The sooner we get there, the sooner we can enjoy the sea, the barbecue, and the beauties. Why aren't you in a hurry at all? I ordered a fried noodles and ate it with relish. Looking at Mark calmly, I said, What's wrong? Is it that urgent? I just wanted to take care of a personal matter and eat something to fill my stomach. Do you like the feeling of being hungry? I can hear your stomach growling from 2 seats away. Mark angrily stuffed a mouthful of the fried noodles I bought for him and said sullenly, I was waiting for the big meal. I looked at Mark's flexible right hand. In the previous life, his right hand was crushed by the seat and turned into a mass of minced meat. With his poor family background, he almost lost his life. Fortunately, his girlfriend was very good to him. She was willing to go bankrupt to treat him. Even after he had his arm amputated, the two got married happily. He always had a good attitude and had a 3-year-old son. Even with only one hand, he was doing well in the company. I, on the other hand, although I was also married, didn't receive gratitude. Instead, I was more or less morally kidnapped. After all, although Sophia was grateful at that time, she wasn't that great as to marry me out of gratitude. With my hideous appearance, how could she like me? Even though I saved her, she married me under the pressure of her family. I thought Sophia was really moved by me and fell in love with me. Maybe from the beginning, Sophia was indifferent to me in her bones. She was just bent by public opinion and dealt with the matter perfunctorily. Alright, by the way, did you receive the special employment offer from Thunder Group? I changed the topic and asked. Mark's eyes widened, and he looked at me and said, No way, you got it. I showed him the information in my phone's email and said proudly, Sorry, I just received it. Mark looked at me with envy and jealousy and said, Amazing, bro. You're going to be rich. That's Thunder Group. Thunder Group was extremely strict in recruitment. When I saw the offer just now, I realized that I was a top student. But in my previous life, my self-confidence was shattered by my scary appearance. I became depressed and even started to avoid meeting people. I just stayed at home, making graphics and video software, earning 5,000 or 6,000 yuan a month. This time, I had a new starting point. Mark suddenly put down his chopsticks and asked with some confusion, What's going on? I feel like there's an earthquake. Do you feel it? My face froze, and I tried to look calm. Could it be that the chain reaction rear-end collision still happened? Not good. There are a lot of police cars, and the fire engines are also here. James, something's happened ahead. The whistling sounds made my back feel cold. Mark waved his hand in front of me and asked with concern, What's wrong with you? You look so pale. I don't know. Are you done eating? Let's go to the mountain villa first. I threw away the lunchbox, and my hands couldn't stop trembling. But the road was blocked, and we couldn't pass. There was a major accident ahead. Mark gritted his teeth and we turned back. Neither of us spoke on the way. On the way, Mark asked worriedly, rear-end collision. What about those people on the bus? Don't think too much. If it's really that serious, it will be reported in the news. If you're not sure, you can call others. I stopped Mark. I knew the result, but I more wanted to know the outcome of Sophia and David. This time, without me risking my life to save them, could Sophia and David get out unscathed? I could never forget that in my previous life, after I saved Sophia, she hugged David beside her and cried loudly, and then I was directly blown away by the explosion. I realized that by sacrificing my left leg to hold the seat, I also helped David hold up the broken seat. I saved both of them. I directly muted my phone, went back to the dormitory, and replied to the special employment message. Seeing the officially confirmed quota, I felt 1,000 emotions welling up. I got up and washed my face in the bathroom. When I looked up, for a moment, looking at the strange yet familiar face in the mirror, I subconsciously lowered my head to avoid looking. Only when I realized that I hadn't had that accident yet did I muster the courage to look up and examine myself again. In the past 10 years, this was the first time I faced myself. I still remembered that during my recovery after being saved, seeing my own appearance, with my hideous left face and missing nose, was more painful than death. What are you looking at? Being narcissistic. I know you're handsome, okay. Mark came back with a few bottles of drinks. He had just been to the school supermarket. Am I handsome? I touched my eyes and brows and murmured. I was used to being called a monster, a devil, a scary ghost. Now, someone actually said I was handsome. Something really happened. Mark suddenly exclaimed. I was startled, wiped my face haphazardly, and rushed out. The real-time news was playing on the laptop. Looking at the tragic scene, I saw the familiar bus. My pupils suddenly shrank. They really had an accident. Most of the people were sent to the central hospital. Mark looked at me with a somewhat complicated expression and said, James, we escaped a disaster. Did you have a premonition? I shook my head and replied, me. How could I? It was just a coincidence. What premonition? Nonsense. He didn't know that this was a second chance bought with my life. Look at the club group quickly. Mark suddenly shouted at me. I'm so unlucky. I encountered a rear-end collision. My neck almost broke, and my right hand is fractured. There are so many injured people here. Is everyone okay? Can you all come out and say something? Were you sent to other hospitals? This was the last team building of the photography club. After that, we'll all go our separate ways. I never thought it would end so tragically. I stared closely at the group messages, but I never saw any messages from Sophia and David. Hey, only a few people are talking in the group. Where are the others? Mark also sent a message. The vice president, Joseph, immediately sent a message and asked, God, Mark, are you and James okay? You weren't on the bus. Were you affected by the following cars? We didn't have time. When we went there, the road was blocked, and we couldn't pass. Then we knew something big had happened ahead. I sent a message. You're really lucky. Otherwise, you'd be in the same situation as us. This tone sounded a bit sarcastic. A bunch of people were chatting, but Sophia and David still didn't say anything. Did anyone see them? Finally, someone asked what I wanted to know. I was looking to see if anyone would send a message when my back was suddenly slapped. Mark pointed at my eyes and said, Are your eyes okay? They're scarily red. I forced a smile, and my face was so stiff that I could feel the tightness. I almost forgot how to smile. Indeed, since I got disfigured, I hardly ever smiled. I had long forgotten how to do it. Stop, stop, stop. Your smile is a bit scary. If you're not feeling well, lie down for a while. We're also lucky people with great fates. Mark was really carefree. There was no sign of fear on his face. I did lie down on the dormitory bed, but my mind was filled with my decadence after being injured, my parents' haggard looks, and Sophia being forced to marry me because her parents cared a lot about face. Since I saved their daughter's life, Sophia had to be responsible for me. At that time, I didn't regret saving Sophia. Even though I was a top student, Sophia liked the school bully David. I was quiet and not as good as him at making girls happy. David was good at having fun and talking, and he was kind of cool and handsome. But I kept my love in my heart, believing that Sophia could see my sincerity. However, I regretted marrying Sophia. I thought she would have feelings for me, but in fact, when she saw my miserable appearance, Sophia did have feelings, but it was just pity. At that time, I thought I had caught the last straw, just because she decided to marry me. The humbleness and caution in marriage made me very tired. On the other hand, I felt very happy because the person I liked was by my side, so I was even more afraid of losing her. It was not until I was dying that I knew she hated me so much. "James, can you come to the Central Hospital?" My phone suddenly vibrated. I woke up immediately, picked up the phone, and found that it was a message from Sophia. "Now." It took me a long time to send these 2 words. Looking at Sophia's usual commanding tone, I felt annoyed. Since she didn't love me, what did it mean to keep accepting my kindness? "It's too late. I've already gone to bed." It was 1:30 in the morning. Why did she think I would still be at her beck and call like before? I couldn't help but sneer. "Wow, James, you're not asleep yet." Mark's voice came. "Yeah," I said, and then turned off my phone and put it face down. "Do you know something big happened to Sophia? She just sent me a message. She and David got folded." Mark suddenly said something inexplicable. "What folded?" A crazy idea suddenly popped into my mind. David and Sophia. Due to the impact, the 2 were pressed under the seat. It's so tragic. They were pressed together in the opposite direction. In short, it's like a folded mobile phone. My silence was deafening. With everyone wearing seatbelts, the only way for them to be in such a folded position was if Sophia and David were hugging each other before the accident. Mark continued, "Let's go and see them tomorrow. See if we can help." I didn't respond. Mark was really warm-hearted. I didn't think so. The sarcastic tone of the vice president in the group earlier wasn't that of a good person. Everyone on the bus got into an accident, yet Mark and I were unharmed. One should never underestimate the complexity of human nature. However, I couldn't resist the urge to see what would become of Sophia without me this time. I woke up at 7 the next morning. Mark was in a rush, trying to drag me along to buy some fruits or something, but I refused. I looked at him calmly and said, "How many are you planning to buy?" "1 apple per person. We don't even know how many people got injured. Let's go and check the situation first." So, we hailed a cab and headed straight for the Central Hospital. I had an intense aversion to hospitals. The treatment in my previous life was excruciating, especially the dressing changes on my face. Every time felt like being cut by a knife. "I think I saw some people over there." "Let's go take a look," said Mark, who had sharp eyes. He pulled me along. The distinctive smell of disinfectant in the hospital made my head spin, and I almost threw up. That's when I realized I had forgotten to turn on my phone. When I did, message notifications came one after another. "Why didn't you come? Didn't you say you liked me? James, you're really a liar. You weren't like this before." Reading this, I almost laughed out of anger. Where did Sophia get the nerve to accuse me so matter-of-factly? What was the relationship between us? Just because she knew I liked her and yet pretended not to notice, comfortably enjoying my efforts. "It's the vice president," Mark called out. But my attention was completely drawn to 2 people nearby. I had known them for 8 or 9 years, they were Sophia's parents. At the moment, her father had a deep frown, his face gloomy, and her mother had red, swollen eyes, her mouth tightly shut, looking at her husband with pleading eyes. "Hey, James, Mark," Joseph also noticed us and waved. "You guys are really okay." Joseph squinted his eyes. His glasses were nowhere to be seen, there were red and swollen marks on his face, and his right leg was in a cast. I could see a hint of gloom in his eyes. "Yeah, Vice President. We were lucky to escape. How are the others?" Mark replied casually. Sure enough, Joseph's gaze became a bit more gloomy, but someone, being oblivious, was looking around without a care. I was on my guard and then found the ward where Sophia was. When I entered, I saw David there too. I was startled for a second. A double-bed ward. It seemed David was really concerned about Sophia. "You're here," David said, looking at me with a hint of playfulness in his tone. I frowned. What was this guy up to? I hardly had any interaction with him, and I didn't want to get involved with him either. If it weren't for Sophia, I definitely wouldn't have been in the same club as him. "James, what are you doing here now? Come to laugh at me." Sophia's voice came from the other side. I looked up and saw a head wrapped tightly, with only a pair of eyes showing. "David, you don't seem to be badly injured." "That's really lucky," Mark said. The moment he spoke, I saw David's expression change instantly, a flash of brutality in his eyes. "Of course I'm injured, otherwise why would I be lying here?" David said in his lazy tone. I glanced at the quilt covering him up to his chest and didn't say anything. Say something. Are you me now? Sophia shouted at me. I looked at her calmly and retorted, what identity do you think I should have to you? Get out. All that talk about liking me was fake. You just like my face. You're so hypocritical, you're all a bunch of fake men. Sophia cursed as she threw a pillow at me. I turned to leave. I really didn't want to waste any more words on her. Wait. James, don't go. Please don't go. I promise to be your girlfriend. I promise. Sophia called out in a hurry behind me. I stopped and looked back. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness, hatred, and disdain. I thought to myself, did she really think I was that easy to bully? So I retorted, you'd better focus on your treatment. There must be something wrong with your head. It needs to be fixed. Come on, Sophia, stop making a scene. David laughed beside us. Then he said to me, James, Sophia and I are getting married. Do you want to come and have a drink? I raised my eyebrows. Hearing this, I turned my gaze to Sophia. In my previous life, wasn't she eager to be with David? It seemed that God had heard her wish. Now that their wedding was approaching, but in her eyes, I couldn't see any joy, only panic and fear. Ah, congratulations. It's so sudden. Truly, adversity shows true love, Mark responded, clearly surprised. Adversity shows true love. David twitched his lips, repeating the words with a sarcastic smile. I suddenly felt a shiver down my spine. There was something really strange about him. James, didn't you always like me? Don't you like me anymore? Sophia seemed panicked, and she never dared to look at David. This reaction was really abnormal. Sophia, David called out softly. Sophia immediately stopped talking, not even daring to breathe. The tears in her eyes were forced back. Just then, Sophia's parents arrived. Her father asked, David, was it you who saved my daughter? Hearing this, I felt a bit dazed. I remembered that in my previous life, when I finally regained consciousness and saw Sophia beside me, her father had asked the same question. Dad, I want to go home, Sophia said as she struggled to get up, but fell back onto the bed weakly. A hint of darkness flashed in my eyes. It seemed she had other injuries. Shut up. You owe your life to him, so you have to pay it back. Sophia's father said with a stern and gloomy face, looking at Sophia with reproachful eyes. In fact, I had always felt that Sophia's father didn't treat her as his own daughter, but more like an object. And all Sophia could do was not to refute. Uncle, I want to marry Sophia. Don't worry, I won't treat her badly, David said directly. At that moment, Sophia's face turned ashen. I pulled Mark towards the door. Sophia's father said, Student, don't worry. Our family knows how to repay kindness. Uncle, here is 500,000 in cash as a bride price for marrying Sophia. Just as the door was closing, I heard David say this. I couldn't help but shake my head slightly. I thought, David, even if you didn't mention the 500,000, Sophia's father would have arranged for her to marry you anyway. Hey, is David crazy? Mark said, putting his arm around my shoulder as we walked out of the hospital, looking skeptical. I knew things weren't that simple, but I replied impatiently, it's none of my business. Whether he's crazy or not, we're almost graduating anyway. Actually, I was also curious in my heart why Sophia suddenly had such a strong reaction to David. Have you really let go? Mark asked, with a cheeky look, leaning in close. I looked at the clouds outside, pushed his head away, and said, it never belonged to me in the first place. There's nothing to let go of. This time, I sincerely wished Sophia well, hoping that her wish from the previous life could come true. After seeing Sophia and David in the hospital, I moved out of the school and dedicated myself to my new career. I have to say that Thunder Group truly lives up to its reputation as an industry leader. The work rhythm there is incredibly fast. Although I had excellent grades in my previous life, I had no experience with special employment offers, so I was still lacking in a lot of knowledge. So I studied intensively while striving to make progress. The work of electronic technology research and development is really brain-consuming. But being 10 years younger, I was full of confidence. I managed to take on the key research and development of a new project, successfully closed a big deal, and became the focus among the new employees. The commotion was so big that it caught the boss's attention. Fortunately, when the boss came for an inspection, I happened to be finishing up the project, completing it half a month ahead of schedule. As a result, I was not only officially hired on the spot but also received a large sum of extra bonus. This time, Mark didn't join an advertising company like in the previous life. Instead, he became the owner of a barbecue restaurant, and his business was booming. His barbecue sauce was really unique. I went to eat there several times and saw him sweating profusely but enjoying himself as he flipped the skewers. I was happy for him. I'm getting married to Sophia on the 4th. Everyone who's free, come on over. No need for gifts, just come for a meal, a notice suddenly popped up in the long, silent club group. Coincidentally, I was on a break and going home to visit my parents. It had been over half a year. I had thought David was just saying it casually, but I didn't expect him to really get married. It seemed both of them had recovered quite well. Wow, a 5-star hotel. We must go. Sure enough, David and Sophia are together. I knew they had a thing for each other. Now Sophia is directly marrying into a wealthy family and becoming David's wife. Messages scrolled by quickly, but Sophia never showed up to say anything. I rubbed my chin, looking at the address shared in the group. James, accompany the boss to New York on the 4th. This is a great opportunity. Learn as much as you can and seize it, the department head suddenly told me. Department head, I'm just a newbie. How can I accompany the boss on business? You'll be having a meeting at the Vienna Hotel. You're familiar with the last project, so you'll be in charge of introducing it. This task is assigned to you. Really? Is it that hasty to give it to me? No matter how much I tried to decline, the department head seemed not to hear me. Vienna. Isn't this the address of David's wedding? And the time just happens to match. This kind of fate is really frustrating. I nervously added the boss's contact information. Theoretically, I shouldn't be directly communicating with the boss, but the department head said the boss specifically asked for me. There was no other way, so I might as well drop by and see David's wedding. Not bad, kid. Mark punched me on the shoulder. I adjusted my glasses and straightened my suit. Don't mess around. I'm on a business trip with the boss today. I can't afford to make any mistakes. As I said this, I checked my belongings again. Mark asked in surprise, aren't you going to David's wedding? I smiled and said, sort of. I'm in the same hotel as the boss. I'll see if I have time then. Oh, our James has really leveled up. Mark quipped as usual. When I arrived at the hotel, I was surprised to find that the boss came alone. I thought he would at least bring a secretary or something. The time has been changed to 2 p.m. Do you have any recommendations for a place to eat at noon? The boss commanded coolly. Well, there's a wedding in the hotel today, I said, looking at the two people on the poster. I couldn't help but wonder, what happened to Sophia? On the poster, she was wearing a beautiful and luxurious wedding dress, but she was extremely thin, and her smile looked so artificial that she seemed like a mannequin. I said indifferently, coincidentally, they're my old college classmates. The boss patted me on the shoulder and said with a smile, oh, classmates. Then you can go and have fun. Young people don't need to accompany me. I'll go chat with an old friend. Don't be late for the afternoon meeting. Our boss is these days so easy going. I couldn't help but wonder for the nth time. But seeing the boss walking away with a smile, really allowing me to go and have fun. James, things aren't that simple. Are you really not coming? Mark messaged me. He should be at the wedding venue now. I replied, I'm on my way. I first put my computer back in the room and then headed towards the wedding venue. This is James. Not bad, this outfit. I heard you join Thunder. Is it true? Is it the Thunder I'm thinking of? As soon as I entered, it triggered a discussion. Mark gave me a wink. I turned around and found two more people behind me. The moment Sophia saw me, her previously lifeless eyes lit up for a second, followed by venom. Her right eye looked a bit unnatural. But as soon as she met David's gaze, she immediately put on a smile, a fawning smile filled with deep fear. I took a look at Sophia's face, which clearly had some high-tech work done. When I saw her wrapped up so tightly in the hospital before, I thought she was disfigured like me in the previous life. James, as excellent as ever, David's voice brought me back to my senses. Only then did I notice that he had been sitting. Congratulations on your wedding, I said. As soon as I finished speaking, Sophia's venomous look returned. Happy. Ha 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 ha. Her laughter was gloomy and crazy. David is crazy. Her laughter attracted a lot of people, and soon someone came to take Sophia and David away. What's going on? Mark pulled me aside and sat me down, then whispered a few words in my ear. My eyes widened. What? David is disabled. He lost everything from the hip down, including that part. I learned that David and Sophia were being daring, having sex on the bus with Sophia sitting on David's lap. Because Sophia was wearing a puffy skirt, no one on the bus noticed much, thinking they were just a loving couple showing affection. But at a critical moment, the bus had an accident and rolled over. The two weren't wearing seatbelts and were instantly squeezed and folded in the opposite direction by the seats. David was. This reversal was really dramatic. I just didn't protect Sophia like before, and the trajectory of fate completely changed. No wonder Sophia was so abnormal before, wanting to be with me. After all, which woman would like a disabled man? But Sophia and I were married for 8 years in the previous life, and we had very few intimate moments. She really disliked me. Sigh, well, I'm a man with normal abilities, not like David now, who can only look but not act. Mark whispered beside me, let's leave early after we eat. I feel like David is creepy. Didn't you see how scared Sophia is of him? I shouldn't have come. I feel so uncomfortable. I couldn't help but laugh. He was the one who wanted to come in the first place, and now he was saying he regretted it. Hey, James, how much do you earn at Thunder now? Joseph popped up out of nowhere to join in the conversation, looking at me. James, is there a person named Michael at your wedding? The boss suddenly asked. Could the meeting have been moved forward? But I didn't know anyone named Michael. I want to ask, does anyone here know Michael? I looked around. Most of them were from the club. Just as I finished speaking, Mark suddenly stepped on my foot. What was this kid up to? I winced in pain and pulled my foot back. This young man knows me, a mature voice of a middle-aged man came from behind. I was just asking casually. I didn't expect the person to be right behind me. Hello, who are you? I'm David's father. Looking at this middle-aged man with a kind face in front of me, I was speechless inside. Big boss, you specifically named him, and it just happened to be his father. Right, okay. The phone call came in a timely manner. Just as we mentioned the boss, he called. I handed the phone to Michael. He had a smile on his face, but his eyes were cold. He looked at my phone and didn't even move. I knew he was a big shot, and I was just a junior, so I directly put it on speaker. Anyway, it wasn't me looking for him. Michael, your son is getting married today. As soon as the voice came out, Michael's face changed instantly. It's Robert. He suddenly became respectful. This change left me at a loss. Mark and the others beside me were also stunned. I heard from James. I happened to be at the hotel today. If he hadn't said his classmate was having a wedding here, I wouldn't have noticed. There were other voices coming from the boss's side. Thank you, Robert, for remembering me. Michael really smiled this time, with a hint of flattery. Even though the boss wasn't in front of us, just through a phone call, I could feel the inquisitive and disbelieving gazes around me. I was confused myself. The Thunder Group's boss was really powerful, but David's family was also wealthy, a real rich second generation. Alright, consider it a wedding gift from James to your son. The project in the west of the city will be given to your family. I'll send you the contract later. The boss hung up the phone after saying this. It suddenly became quiet around me. What did he mean by it being a wedding gift from me to David? I didn't want to give it at all. James has a bright future, working under Robert, Michael chuckled. His eyes looking at me became much warmer and more enthusiastic than before. The project in the west of the city is worth $30 million. I really got lucky this time. If you have a chance, put in a good word for me in front of Robert. It would be best if you could arrange a dinner. Michael seemed quite eager. My heart was in turmoil. $30 million. Boss, are you out of your mind? I looked at my phone. My scalp was tingling. I had to hurry up and prepare for the meeting. Sorry, I have to go to Robert's side first. I put away my phone, tossed out a quick reply, and strode away. If I could, I would have run. I really didn't think I had the ability to make the boss give such an extravagant gift. Hello, Mom. I'm in a hurry to work. Yeah, okay, talk later. This was unusual. My mom doesn't usually call me during work hours. What was going on today? When I arrived, Robert was already there. He was sipping tea leisurely and said, "You're back. You actually didn't need to rush. It won't start that soon." I asked, puzzled, "Robert, about that wedding gift you mentioned just now, Don't worry about it. The head of the David family is quite reliable in his work, but his son is a rascal. Consider it a little reminder for him." Robert didn't give me a chance to speak. This strange feeling of being valued out of the blue came over me again, making me feel weird and uncomfortable. Feeling a bit strange, aren't you? Robert noticed my expression and a playful look suddenly appeared on his face. In an instant, thoughts of workplace unspoken rules flashed through my mind. But I'm a guy. What on earth? Your mind is in the gutter. I'm your godfather.
Godfather. What are you talking about? Do my parents know?
How did I suddenly get a new dad?
Let's start the meeting first. We'll talk about it later.
Robert switched to a serious work mode with great momentum. I also got serious and quickly got all the materials ready.
The meeting lasted 2 hours and 14 minutes.
This was the first time I witnessed Robert seamlessly switching between 4 languages. In comparison, I felt a bit useless, scrambling around to find the necessary information.
Fortunately, we managed to complete the task smoothly. Coincidentally, my mom called again. Mom, is what you said true? I replied cautiously. Mia.
Robert suddenly called out, and my mom's voice on the other end stopped abruptly.
Put it on speaker, Robert pointed at the phone. I did as he said. Ah. Robert, you're really back.
My mom's scream made me freeze on the spot. But Robert laughed heartily and said, I've been looking forward to that scream for 20 years. Your voice is still as energetic as ever. I suddenly felt the phone getting hot in my hand.
What kind of secret did my mom and Robert have?
Are you completely recovered?
How are you? My son is working for you.
My mom bombarded him with questions.
The kid is well raised. He looks just like G. did when he was young.
It turned out that my parents and Robert were also classmates, and they had been together since elementary school.
The 3 of them had an excellent relationship.
Later, Robert got into a serious car accident.
Amazingly, both my parents were a match for him. One donated a kidney, and the other donated a cornea. I remembered my dad's right eye.
When I asked him before, he just said losing that I was worth it. Unfortunately, due to limited medical conditions at that time, Robert had to be rushed abroad.
That was over 20 years ago.
No one knew what happened in between, and they lost contact. My parents were always worried but couldn't get in touch, so they just kept that concern in their hearts. Unexpectedly, they got back in touch some time ago. I got into Thunder through a proper recruitment process and had nothing to do with Robert. According to him, it was when I completed the project ahead of schedule, and he happened to notice my appearance that he realized I might be the child of his close friends. You've raised a great son, Robert said, looking at me with approval. At this moment, I didn't feel strange. He really regarded me as his own child.
Of course. Look at who we are. Our kid can't be anything but great, my mom said, her tone full of pride.
Just then, my phone started vibrating like crazy with a series of calls.
I took a quick glance and knew who it was. Go ahead and deal with it.
You seem to be in a hurry, Robert waved his hand.
Okay, boss, I replied out of habit. Call me Godfather. Robert suddenly roared. Okay, Godfather. I couldn't help but scratch my head. This situation was really confusing.
It felt like a tycoon godfather had just fallen from the sky.
Scram already. The number kept calling persistently. It must be Sophia.
I had forgotten to block or blacklist her. Since we met at the hospital, I hadn't been in touch with her, so I didn't pay much attention.
James, save me, please. James, I don't want to marry David. I'm being forced. James, I like you. As soon as I answered, Sophia's shrill voice almost made me drop the phone. What was she up to now?
She was the one who said she didn't love me and wanted to be with David.
Now she was saying she loved me and didn't want to marry David. Wasn't this a split personality? Who are you talking to?
Just as I was about to speak, a man's voice came from the phone. For some reason, even though I knew it was David, it didn't sound like him.
Then, Sophia's call was cut off. After successfully handling everything, I returned to my rented place. Godfather gave me 2 days off, with pay.
I planned to move to a new place in these 2 days because Godfather had already arranged it for me, and there was no way I could refuse. Everything was almost packed, just waiting for the move. So, I decided to go to Mark's place for a meal to treat myself. James, a soft, spooky voice came as the elevator door opened. The dim corridor was really creepy. When I saw who it was, I clenched my fists.
It was Sophia.
How did she know where I lived? James, did you know I was disfigured all along, so you rejected me? Sophia suddenly took out a wet wipe and started rubbing her face frantically.
Sophia, I just came to my senses. Weren't you quite into David before? And now that you're married, you should just live your life. I really didn't understand what she was up to.
As I spoke, I instinctively reached out to block, and something came flying at me.
What do you mean, live my life? James, do you know what kind of life I'm living?
Sophia looked up, and my eyes twitched.
Her right eye was empty, a dark void. I instinctively looked down at my feet, and there lay an eyeball.
This woman just threw her eyeball at me without hesitation. and her whole face had uneven skin tones, as if it was pieced together with different, colored skins.
It was eerie and terrifying. Why didn't you take me off the bus with you? Why didn't you take me away from the hospital? Why won't you marry me? Why? Why? Sophia kept asking me like she had gone crazy. Are you out of your mind? I didn't tie you down. What were you and David doing on the bus? Don't you know? What do you take me for, a trash can? You're dumping all this on me. I was so angry that I punched the wall behind Sophia. Get out of my way. No. Save me, James. Your boss is so powerful. I don't want to be with David. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7-story pagoda. Sophia suddenly knelt down and clung tightly to my legs. Sophia, who used to be so arrogant that she almost looked down on me, was now crawling on the ground like a stray dog. David is a monster. He's disabled, and he's taking it all out on me. I'm covered in wounds. Wah-ah. I really can't take it anymore. Sophia was crying, with snot and tears streaming down her face. It was really disgusting. Don't think everyone is a fool, Sophia. Whether you live a good life or not has nothing to do with me. Didn't you enjoy the glory of being David's wife and the envy of others before? I mercilessly exposed her last bit of pretense. If you really can't take it, wouldn't it be quicker to end your life? Why keep pestering me? You don't understand. You just don't get it. Why do I have to go through this? Sophia stared at me with her empty right eye. Sophia, you brought this upon yourself. I pulled my leg out and looked at her coldly. Sophia could watch me bleed to death without lifting a finger. Why shouldn't I coldly watch her be tortured by David, the man she most wanted to be with in her previous life? I didn't need to dirty my hands, and I was happy to stay out of it. Just then, the elevator arrived. I said, I should go downstairs and check if the moving company is here. Unexpectedly, when the elevator door opened, there was another person inside. Hello, James. I knew she'd come to find you, David said with a sickly smile. I have nothing to do with her anymore. Please take your wife away, I said, then turned around and stepped into the elevator, watching David slowly roll his wheelchair towards Sophia. The last thing I saw as the elevator door closed was David yanking Sophia's hair. The pain that had been pent up in my heart for so long suddenly disappeared. Sophia, this time I fulfilled your wish and let you be with David. Are you happy? Ha ha ha. I spent 10 years trying to win you over, but you couldn't even last half a year after marrying David. Later, I learned a lot from Godfather, and my own strength gradually increased. Godfather noticed my progress, so in just 2 years, I was sent to a subsidiary as the vice president. Cheers! Mark clinked his glass with mine. At this moment, I saw a figure that seemed familiar. The person was bustling around, wearing a greasy apron. Don't you remember? This is Joseph. He came to apply at my place, and for old classmates' sake, I hired him, Mark said. Hey, isn't this the once arrogant vice president? I patted Mark on the shoulder with a smile. Not bad, bro. You're really stepping up your game now. Come on, James. You're flattering me. We both smiled at each other. Those past people and events had become memories in our conversations. Life in the future will be better, and we should look forward.